They're gonna put you all back in chains.
In 2014, Edie and her son awaited asylum at Berks, a family detention facility contracted by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, known as ICE.
La primera vez que él abusó de mí sexualmente fue en agosto.
He had been giving them favors, giving her little boy toys and candy, and he had told her that, he could help her out and that he was friends with a deportation officer.
Una tarde estábamos afuera como en el parque y él me dijo que yo le gustaba. O sea, lo tomé como que estaba jugando. Él entró al baño y me quitó mi ropa y se quitó su ropa. Y yo no pude decirle que no, yo no pude hacer nada. Yo simplemente hice lo que él quería.
Me being in a power position and her being kind of like being a resident there, she was never, I never threatened her or anything like that.
People shouldn't have to tell the United States government that putting children in cages is wrong.
We'll keep talking about this repeatedly until these children are free. Children in ICE detention centers are dying. This is not an over-exaggeration of the point. They are dying. They are being sexually assaulted by guards. They are being trafficked. They are being treated as less than human. As we sit here enjoying the comforts of our home, many of them are without food, water. Many of them are without proper resources. They're scared. They're alone. They're wondering, why is it that I am in this predicament if that's what I escaped from in the first place? The United States destabilized Central America. That is why a lot of people are looking for asylum.
Please stop scrolling for just a sec. This is very important and it's not getting enough attention. So please share, copy, link, just send this to everyone because everyone needs to hear this. ICE detention camps are now going to be establishing full-blown gas chambers. The New York Times has called these ICE detention centers concentration camps. Now, I would never compare anything to the Holocaust because that was a terrible time in our history. However, these situations are starting to look far too familiar. They are holding people in these ICE detention centers solely for being undocumented immigrants, and no one knows what's happening in there. On top of that, another 1,500 kids went missing from ICE detention centers. That's 3,000 children. Donald Trump is connected to sex trafficking rings, and that is something that you cannot deny. If you think about it, the connections between present-day America and 1940s Nazi Germany aren't that far off. The most terrifying part about it is that the government is against us. We need to stand up for what is right. ICE, we're coming for you next.
Policemen swear to God, but
this is going to be one of the most important videos you watch today, so boost this, share this, everything. You need to be outraged. A whistleblower who was a nurse that worked at the Irwin County Detention Center, which is basically an ICE detention center, just came out and said that doctors are performing mass hysterectomies on immigrant women. They are removing, quitando the uterus from women, and they don't even know it. They're going in telling them that they're sick and they have to remove their uterus, and the women don't even understand what's going on, and they do the surgery. Most of them didn't even need the surgery. Our government is sterilizing immigrant women.
Tell me something that white people say to let you know that they're low-key racist.
You're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Can you guys imagine if Trump said any of that stuff? And not to mention, Joe Biden used to be a segregationist. He didn't just compromise with them, he fought for their cousins' schools. His 1994 crime bill that incarcerated mass amounts of nonviolent people of color. He also said you had to have a slight Indian accent to go into any 7-Elevens. He also spoke at a KKK member's funeral. Biden is, and always has been, a racist.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel here. It's Lavender here, and today I am doing a video on the United States of imperialism's evil ICE concentration camps. Expose a deep dive into this. So let's get started into this video. So I have been wanting to make a video about this topic for a while now, but I just kept putting the video idea off and off and off, but now I'm finally doing a video on this subject, this controversial subject, because I think it's important to expose capitalist pig atrocities by the United States of imperialism. And I want to do this video because you have people like Alexandria Cortez justifying these camps, saying that there is no border crisis under Joe Biden, and that Donald Trump's border crisis was way worse than Joe Biden's, and Joe Biden's border crisis is so much different, which is not true at all. And she's being like a vulture and a snake, and these people are very dangerous, so I need to expose the truth. So yeah, I'm making this video because the victims of capitalism deserve a voice. They deserve to be heard. And the United States has the nerve to lecture others about, other countries about human rights and human rights violations, and want to bring all these fake human rights, democracy interventions in third world countries all around the world. But in reality, it's their pursuit of oil, natural gas, diamonds, gems, gold, etc. They don't give a fuck about human rights. So yeah, let's get started into this ICE exposing video. So people have literally been murdered for exposing the injustices of these ICE, United States concentration camps known as ICE, such as the case of, there was this guy, it's a Tell Us Our English article. The United States anarchist and anti-fascist activist Will Van Spochtren was killed Saturday by police in the state of Washington while trying to take direct action against a migration ICE concentration camps. The killing occurred a few hours after a peaceful demonstration against the migrants' detention camp when 4 police officers shot the 69-year-old campaigner in the head. So now on to the ICE detention centers, aka the ICE concentration camps, themselves. So yeah, ICE has been accused of, aiding in illegal adoptions, although they're not directly responsible for it. They play a part in, these forced adoptions where immigrant women have their children taken away from them and, put up for adoption. Children, along with women, being sexually exploited and abused by guards, human trafficking, violations, forced sterilization of migrant women who don't understand what's going on due to their language barrier, gassing people with toxic chemicals and substances, CIA-like torture such as force-feeding people, working with private prisons which are known to lock people up just to make lots of money, etc. So let's break down all of them. So ICE has been quoted saying that the detention center says it's not responsible for staff sexual abuse of migrants, that they have nothing, they have no part of it. An asylum seeker and domestic violence survivor from Honduras was sexually assaulted by an employee while she was detained with her 3-year-old child. She filed suit against the detention center and its staff for their failure to protect her from sexual violence and her sexual assault. Her assailant coerced her and threatened her, including with possible deportation, while the defendants stood by and made jokes about it. The employee pled guilty to criminal institutional sexual assault. A recent investigation into sexual assault in immigrant detention centers found that there were 1,448,000 allegations of sexual abuse filed with ICE between 2012 and March 2018. In 2017 alone, there were 237 allegations of sexual abuse in immigrant detention facilities. Last month, the Texas Tribune Tribune reported that ICE guards had been systematically sexually assaulting women in El Paso Detention ICE Center. Women were abused in areas of the facility not visible to security cameras for obvious reasons because they don't want to get caught raping people. And were told that they would not be believed if they filed suit or whatever, or told anyone, you know, typical gaslighting. A guard told one woman he would prevent her deportation if she behaved while he raped her. Due to ICE, some children have been adopted to foster families without, the biological mother's or the parents' consent. Bail Romo's son was put up for adoption after she was arrested in immigration raid in 2007. Children under the age of 5 who were forcibly separated from their parents, the children ripped away from their parents and then shipped out all over the country with strangers for no reason other than cruel and unusual punishment. In 2007, Bail Romero, a Guatemalan immigrant, was arrested in Missouri during an immigration raid. Her young son, Carlos, was just 11 months old and put in the care of a family and friends until a judge ordered and decided to take the child into government custody and put him up for adoption. The family whose home the government placed Carlos in changed his name to Jamson Moser, then fought the biological mother, Bail Ramo, to never see him again or be in touch with him again, and they actually won. The courts declared that when Bail Ramo was jailed for immigration violation, she abandoned Carlos and forfeited her parental rights. The Supreme Court also refused to even hear her case on this case. Poverty and unemployment are not legitimate reasons or excuses to basically kidnap someone's child, rename them, rehome them, and terminate all the rights of the birth parents. Detainees of ICE are subject to hysterectomies at private ICE facilities. A whistleblower nurse raised the alarm about this concern within the ICE concentration camps. Wooten, a practicing nurse of 10 years who had worked in the Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia, filed the complaint. Wooden claimed horrific conditions and treatment, including jarring medical neglect, accusing the ICE detention center of negligence, including poor safety precautions surrounding the COVID-19, pandemic, and generally biohazardous-like conditions within the ICE concentration camps. According to an interview with The Intercept, Wooden said she was demoted and reprimanded when she spoke out against these practices and procedures, revealing that immigrants who also spoke out about these conditions were regularly pushed into solitary confinement or even threatened with deportation. The interview describes an alarmingly high rate of hysterectomy. She explains that basically every Spanish-speaking detainee who complained of heavy period menstrual cycles or pain was sent off to a surgeon who removed their uteruses despite not fully consenting to or understanding the procedure due to the language barrier, because most of them didn't speak, English. ICE also attempted to deport one of the women who says she received a hysterectomy without her consent. Congress intervened to prevent her deportation after she was already on a plane waiting on the tarmac. Everybody's uterus cannot be that bad, Wooten said, reminding that the terrible legacy of the racist imperialism in the United States forcefully, did sterilization programs for black, indigenous, native, and immigrant women under, racist pretexts. Globally, rape and sterilization have been used as tools by oppressors, and by governments. Reports find ICE detention centers are using disinfectants over 50 times a day that cause bleeding and pain for immigrants and migrants. When I blow my nose, blood comes out, one inmate said. They are treating us like animals, like complete animals. One person fainted and was taken out. I don't know what happened to them. There is no fresh air in here. Immigrants being held at Trump's administration-funded detention facility ICE concentration camps in California are allegedly being doused with industrial disinfectant in confined spaces in an attempt to control the outbreak and spread of the coronavirus, according to some activists. So the immigration detention facility outside of Los Angeles is reportedly spraying detainees with HGQ neutral, a potent and potentially toxic disinfectant, which can cause severe skin burns and serious eye damage, like a gassing, damage. The chemical is only supposed to be used outdoors or in a well-ventilated areas while wearing protective gloves. Clothing and eye and face protection is, necessary. According to the manufacturer, the company that manufactures, the disinfectant, Spartan Chemical Company. The crowded and closed conditions, along with the fact that immigrants in detention centers and ICE concentration camps do not have protective equipment, render those use of HDQ neutral not only as highly problematic, but also grossly illegal. Those have been sprayed say they have suffered health complications such as rashes, nosebleeds, breathing difficulties, headaches, and nausea was reported to be, in some people that it happened to. Detainees have made dozens of complaints, but the ICE and a GEO Group Inc., a private prison operator, contracted at the ICE Center, have continually denied the harm being caused. And they have attempted to cover up the whole situation. It's a capitalist pig cover-up. Refugees say protests against the risk of COVID-19 was violently suppressed at a New Mexico ICE concentration camp facility. Migrants were on a days-long hunger strike when guards entered their prison in full riot gear and gas mask shields and canisters full of pepper spray and gas. Suddenly, they just started gassing us, said Yandy Bascasco, a 34-year-old asylum seeker from Cuba. You can hear everyone screaming for help. She basically tried to grab, the person I was talking about tried to grab a guy's shirt and put it over his mouth of a man who was struggling to breathe. The officer sprayed me directly in the face and on my body, and I ran. I felt like I was going to drown in pepper spray. I felt like I had been burned with gasoline, said one Cuban detainee. My throat closed and I fell on the floor. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. ICE policy allows the use of pepper spray to gain control of a detainee and use, excessive force, obviously. In January 2019, a federal judge authorized ICE to force-feed migrants locked in an El Paso ICE facility that were refusing to eat and were on a hunger strike. Staff pushed plastic tubing up their noses, piped food directly into their stomachs. Since the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, detained migrants across the country, from all the way from Massachusetts to California to Texas, have been pepper sprayed after raising concerns about the conditions of their confinement. And, the capitalist pig, helpers, the ICE, helpers and staffers are trying to cover this up because this is a capitalist pig cover-up. Private prisons also asked ICE to pay multi-million-dollar human trafficking lawsuit costs. GEO Group, the country's second largest private prison company, is one of several private prisons facing lawsuits over potential human rights violations. Several people have come forward, and that were in the prison, saying that the company forced detainees to do manual labor for only like $1 a day, sometimes even less than that, and has punished anyone, the detainees who refused, solitary with confinement. This is literally like concentration camp, like situations basically, like the disgusting, clean situations, the disease outbreaks, etc. So if you guys like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Bye guys, next video.